let me tell you how bad I feel for this guy. Because like I convinced him to move out here, and this is the kind of stuff that he showed up to.
The first fucking day.
Wait, when did you get here?
I came straight here from the airport yesterday, and I was here, I want to say 3 hours before shit cracked off.
Oh.
Yeah, because he's been living in New York. And so I was very, very motivated to start podcasting with him at a certain point. Just seemed like it was kind of urgent. And a lot of stuff has been going on since. I feel like it's fair to the fans that we kind of break it down in more depth. I don't know how closely you've been following this.
Yeah, so obviously I've known AD for like 10 years. So from what I understand, you fired Lush on the stream because of some, I'm not even on Discord, but some Discord shit.
Let me explain this. So, okay.
Yeah, let's break it down, man.
Lush, we've told him many different times throughout his time here that he's been doing a little too much in terms of communicating with the fans. Now, I mean, obviously communicating with the fans normally is a good thing.
Right.
You know, if I were to see you talking to people on Twitter or, you know, anything like that, for the most part, this is a good thing, right?
Yeah.
But with Lush, it had kind of taken on a different character where there was like multiple times or maybe just one time, I don't want to say multiple times, where he's kind of like said stuff in the Reddit that multiple of us, me, AD, et cetera, we had told him, this is not good. This is not a good use of your time. This is not something that you should be doing, basically, is like, you know, going in the Reddit and like having these sort of like in-depth conversations and stuff. It's like he would like do a podcast, get a reaction live, and then immediately be in the Reddit responding to everybody.
Right.
Which, to be honest, like, it's just not necessary. You know, it's like these people, they're going to talk about you either way.
Right.
You don't have to jump in there and just feed yourself to the sharks. And that really is ultimately how this kind of ended up. And then the Discord is like a whole nother problem because there's like little insular communities of people who sort of, you know, have been grouping together and just talking about no jumper stuff, talking about the drama, whatever. And for some reason, he felt the need to like get all up in that and just sort of be in these Discord calls with the mods and everything like that. And we had told him, like, this is a waste of your time. This isn't not, like, this is going to be bad for you. And I had even had other people who are in these Discord calls and stuff basically tell me that these people were essentially, not all of them, but a lot of these people on Discord were kind of like treating Lush like a lol cow. Now, I'm not sure if you're familiar with the lol cow slang, but the basic definition, maybe I should just pull it up because I know I screenshotted it.
Not familiar.
Yeah, at all. They don't say that.
You never heard lol cow? Okay.
No.
Oh, okay.
For me, yeah, okay, yeah. I probably should have specified that it does come from LOL. But okay, the definition of lol cow on Urban Dictionary is a lol cow is a person you get extensive laughs from who doesn't think or who doesn't know that they're being made fun of. They can often think that they are admired for what they are doing, but secretly they are being laughed at constantly. Now, I'm not saying that Lush was that to us, but I think it's pretty clear that from what I know about some of his conversations in the Discord and stuff, that he was basically getting treated like that by some of these people who, to them, it was kind of like exhilarating that they had like an actual no jumper host who was down to have 3-hour conversations late at night in the Discord with them. You know? So
there's like this whole underbelly of no jumper fans that are just in a chat room.
Yeah, and this one specifically was a voice chat.
Okay.
So I'm sure that he was popping into the Discord regularly. There is a no jumper Discord that I heard has been absolutely surging since all this stuff happened. They just told me that like 6,000 new people joined this like in the last 24 hours or something.
Damn.
So this is kind of like back in the day when you'd go into like an MSN chat room or some shit about a topic.
Yeah, Discord like basically just allows you to create chat rooms and various kinds of chat rooms too, where you can have a voice chat, you can have just like a plan. There's rooms that are open to the public where like the main no jumper Discord, if you were to go to it right now, is just going to be like 5 billion random no jumper fans / people who are interested in this talking about God knows what, right?
So these people are so dedicated to being fans of you guys that they're talking about it. So they're probably super excited that somebody who's actually a part of the shows is in there shooting the shit.
And probably if it was like someone like me or AD or T-Rel who those people knew that we could control ourselves and that we would be acting in a responsible manner, it would have been probably a little less exhilarating or a little bit like it wouldn't have been as fun for them because they wouldn't be necessarily of the opinion that they could get us to crash out, right? But whereas with the Lush thing, I feel like a big part, and I've heard this from some of these mods, a big part of what the appeal was that they were kind of like gassing him up, telling him different things, and like really, in this case, trying to get secretive no jumper information out of him. So, full disclosure, for the last couple months, I had been contemplating in my head, is it possible for me to switch up the Tuesday show? The lineup had been for like 3 years. Me, AD, and for a while it was House Phone. Obviously, it was me, AD, at House Phone for years. Then a couple months ago, the House Phone thing kind of fell out, and so T-Rail filled in for, I don't know, like 3-4 episodes or something like that. But this is something that I had been thinking about a lot, where I just had kind of like, as time went by, started to feel like me and AD didn't necessarily have the best podcast rapport. And I feel like a lot of people notice this in the chat, in the comments, in the sense that, you know, it sucks for me to read comments on Sledge Lords and see people saying like, wow, Adam seems like a totally different version of himself. He seems like he's having so much fun on here. And then the Tuesday show, people are like, Adam seems like he's just getting annoyed by the way that this conversation's going and everything like that. And it's just, you know, like me personally, I started to kind of dread it. And we started to record it Monday morning instead of Tuesday night. And I felt like maybe that would help. Is like, okay, if I do this earlier in the day where I have more energy, maybe that'll change things up. It ultimately ended up just being like, you know, I just kind of made the decision that like I have to switch up my cast, right? And I also kind of knew that it was very likely that if I told AD that I wanted him to just do the Wednesday show, that T-Rel as well would probably not want to stay on the Tuesday show, right? Because they kind of came to No Jumper together.
Right.
Yeah, it makes sense.
That could be kind of awkward. So, you know, then, and this has nothing to do with Court, because Court did not cause any of this, for the record. But
I didn't even know.
When I met Court, I was like, this guy really is the type of dude that I think that I could build something great with on Tuesdays. I just, you know, like, I feel like you have like a certain type of like comedic style / podcast style that was very attractive to me. Pause. And
pause that shit.
Yeah, I got to pause that. But, you know, that was part of it, is like, you know, I had been thinking about having this conversation with AD for a long time. Then I meet somebody that I actually think is really good for the role. And so I said to myself last Friday, I'm like, fuck it, I'm going to finally say something to AD about this. So I hop on the phone with him. We have the conversation. I wouldn't say he's like, he seemed a little hurt. Seemed like kind of confused, like he didn't see it coming, you know, but he didn't seem like angry, you know? Right. Just seemed like, okay, like, you know, like he took it fairly well, I think, but we didn't really talk after that until yesterday. Like, so Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, we didn't talk. We were in the group chat, though, and me and him were kind of exchanged, like, we're talking in the group chat. We're talking about the Last of Us season finale and stuff, and we're having, like, normal conversations. So I'm like, okay, AD doesn't hate me, whatever. And yesterday, a big part of my plan for the day was like, okay, I got to find a nice little chunk of time so I can holler at AD and do a temperature check and see where he's at in terms of how he feels about the Tuesday show, the Wednesday show, No Jumper in general, et cetera. And so on Saturday, I made what turned out to be a mistake, which is that I texted Lush about this. And I also texted T-Rel about it. I told T-Rel on Friday, right after I talked to AD, because obviously everybody who's on the podcast should probably be in the loop about decisions that are being made on the podcast. And I had mentioned it to Lush briefly before and made it clear that, like, okay, this is something that I'm thinking about. Then on Friday I told him, and then Saturday me and Lush had a conversation about it via text. And I remember this because I was at the mall in up north. And then so that was that then. And then Monday when I hit up AD, he says a couple things like right away that make me feel like, oh, fuck, he read my fucking conversation with Lush. That's how I felt when I first had this conversation with him, because there were like two different things that I had said in the conversation with Lush, and it wasn't a super long conversation, but there was two different things that I said that basically as soon as AD reiterated them, I was like, what the fuck is going on? Because either my phone is hacked or Lush fucking told AD. So I immediately go out to the office. I say, hey, Josh, go get Lush. Lush comes over. I ask him straight up, like, that conversation I had about AD, you tell anyone? And he just immediately just starts denying it, you know, super hard. So then I start thinking about it a little bit more, and maybe like, you know, a half hour later or whatever, because right after that, Lush goes in and records his verse on Gina Views' Bar City, Bar City Sports show that she was doing. And normally, like, if I have something to say to somebody, I'm like, especially in a business sense, you know, if I fucking want to fire somebody, it's usually going to go through my head for like a long period of time. Or if I just want to like tell somebody what I think of them in a workplace scenario, I'm going to think about that shit a lot before I actually do it, because I know that the way that I feel in the heat of the moment might not necessarily be how I feel about it a couple hours later. So I want to always, you know, try to give myself a little time to cool off and like really think about what I want to do. Right. But, you know, I had like 20 minutes to think about this shit with Lush, and I was still just so fucking annoyed and pissed off about it, because I basically, yeah, at that moment, it became clear to me, because I talked to some of these mods, that Lush had gone in this Discord group chat and fucking aired out the stuff that I told him in privacy on this Discord chat. Now, in his defense, his version of how this happened is that he's basically saying that this other guy on Discord, who I think he's a Discord mod, I thought he was a Reddit mod, it turns out he wasn't, but it's this dude Guilty. And he's not, I've never met him in real life. I don't know what he looks like. All I know about him is that I started communicating with him because he helped set up like one of the Destiny pods, I think, and like the Richard Spencer thing. He was like the one who had a line of communication with Richard Spencer and actually like got on the phone with him, or some shit, was texting him and made it happen. Same thing with the Nick Fuentes thing early on. So I mean, you know, he has connections to a lot of.
Guilty's a part of the alt-right.
That's the fuck I'm saying. He know a lot of the wild niggas, yo.
Right, but so you have Destiny, who's on the far left, and then you also have like Richard Spencer and Nick Fuentes or whatever. But like, you know, I didn't have like a personal relationship with the Guilty dude. Aside, like I looked through my entire text log with him yesterday just to confirm.
Right.
The only things I ever spoke to this Guilty dude about were him booking podcasts, and he had sent me a bunch of like different links. Oh, check out this Ukrainian refugee. Maybe you'd want to have her on the show. Oh, check out this guy. He's a streamer. He's crazy. Like you would like to have him on the show. This sort of thing. Now, it turns out that AD has a closer relationship to the dude Guilty. Like they had actually, I think, been communicating more. Like they had kind of built a bit more of a rapport. Now, Lush's version of the story is basically that there was a Discord call, and that Lush maybe hinted at it and said like, oh, there's going to be some crazy stuff happening with No Jumper this week or something like that. And that Lush claims that Guilty then guessed that the Tuesday show was going to break up. Now, I don't know if I believe this, because why the fuck would Guilty just guess something that actually was about to happen, or that we had already had the conversation with? Now, the version of this that I'm kind of starting to get from the Reddit is that perhaps AD had hinted to Guilty that this was going to happen, because
you had already talked to him Friday, right?
Because I already told AD on Friday, yes, and then I told Lush on Saturday. At some point in all this, potentially AD might have either told Guilty or just hinted at it to Guilty, you know? So that may have been true, but either way, Lush, like Guilty in the Discord call, hinted at the fact that the Tuesday show, like that something might have been going on. Lush took that as, oh, he knows. AD told him, or Adam told him, and so therefore there's nothing wrong with me just saying everything that Adam said to me, which is stupid as fuck. And that's why Lush is not going to be on this podcast anymore, is because there's just like such an irresponsible way of handling yourself when I tell you something in confidence, that as soon as you get any idea that there might be other people who know about this, you just start spitting out like literally verbatim the exact things that I said to him. And for the record, the things that I had said to Lush about the AD situation, I didn't tell Lush about this until after I had already had the conversation. So I kind of resent the narrative that Adam was talking behind AD's back, because while what I said to Lush might have been slightly more harsh, it's not like I really said anything to Lush that I hadn't already said to AD, both in person and on camera. Like the one thing that AD, I think understandably was a little offended by, was I said, I got to do this because I can't keep listening to the same 4 jokes over and over every week. Now, that is something anybody who watches the Tuesday show can confirm, is that that's a conversation that I've basically had with AD over and over on camera. It's the whole tick thing that I've kind of given him shit about over the years. That's basically just me acknowledging that, especially early on, that he had kind of a tendency to repeat the same joke over and over, oftentimes in scenarios where it didn't really make any sense. And I'm not mad at that, but that's the kind of thing where when I told AD, I feel like we have different podcasting styles, and I feel like we're not really like a great podcasting duo. I mean, a more rude way of saying that would be to say, I kind of don't like this style of jokes or whatever the fuck I said to Lush about the 4 jokes, right? So basically, Guilty, as soon as he gets this information from Lush, he goes and tells AD everything. So by the time I hit up AD on Monday, he says, bro, I'm not gonna lie, I'm kind of hurt because of some shit that I found out. And he says those quotes, or something that essentially is close to those quotes, and I'm immediately just like, what the fuck? Like, I start tripping. I send AD the screen recording of my entire conversation with Lush, which I didn't have to do, but like AD, I didn't like the fact that he had this conversation with Guilty that made him feel like he knew that I had said some terrible shit. I was like, let me just show you exactly what I really did say, because I didn't think it was that bad, right? So I showed him, which was probably good because I think, transparency is good in this situation. I wanted him to know the exact things I said. Then, so I walk into the fucking podcast with Lush and I just tell him like, bro, I know what the fuck is wrong with you. And I just tell him like, you got to get out of here. That wasn't me firing him right there. Obviously, like, being fired is a different conversation, but at least in that moment, I was like, I got to get you out of this fucking room, right? And and then from there, last night there was both Back on Fig and then Community. So there were
I saw the clip of the Community shit.
Right. For the fans, there were many, many, many hours of discussion about this. What I just did right there was probably like the closest thing to a nice condensed version of it for people to understand. But obviously last night I hopped on the conversation with AD and Pun, and we had this conversation and everything. And, ultimately, it may be ugly how it kind of played out, because I know why it hurt AD's feelings. He was offended by the fact that somebody else, some random person, would have access to information about how this was all playing out before it was made public or anything like that. But, I also have to look at that and say, well, why am I not able to have a conversation with one of the co-hosts without them spilling the fucking beans? Like, I resent the narrative that I was talking behind AD's back, because the reality is that if we all have a podcast, right? Let's say we all been doing a podcast for 3 years together, and Bootleg Kev is doing something that I really don't like, and we've talked about it, and I've just decided like, okay, I gotta have this conversation with Bootleg Kev. I gotta tell him it's not gonna work out, and so I tell Courtney, I'm thinking about doing this. Is there anything wrong with that?
In my opinion, no.
Like, that is, you're telling me that in the Joe Budden podcast breakup, that when Maul and Rory were having feelings or whatever, that Joe Budden didn't go to Parks and say, hey, Parks, this is what I'm thinking. Like, this is, let me talk through the strategy of how this might play out. To me, that's not talking shit behind somebody's back. That's a bullshit narrative.
Well, just so we're clear, like, the thing that is the shit talking is the same 4 jokes aspect, that comment, correct? Because you had already communicated to AD on Friday that you were going to be switching up the Tuesday show.
Yes. And to be fair, his plan, according to him, was that he was going to, I think just be real cool about it on camera, keep doing the Wednesday thing. And when it came up, because I even told him, I'm like, bro, I'm not trying to make this look bad, because obviously the optics of it are like the rough part, is that people are going to run with a narrative of like, look at how Adam doesn't fuck with AD or whatever. And that's what I told AD from the beginning. It's like, I want you to keep doing the Wednesday show. I want you to keep doing the food show, doing the news and shit sometimes. But in terms of Tuesday, I want to switch it up. And I'm going into this knowing that conversation is something that once it plays out on camera, a decent chunk of the fans and whatever might feel a certain type of way about it or take it in the most negative possible light, since that's a lot of the No Jumper commentary that goes on, is basically like taking anything that happens in No Jumper and just throwing the most negative possible fucking spin on it. So I'm prepared for that, and I'm expecting that, But yeah, then AD obviously and that's the other thing I keep thinking about, is that if I had gone to Lush privately, what would AD have done on stream last night? I don't know that he would have even necessarily talked about it, because it wouldn't have really seemed like he would have been the one bringing it to the forefront, right? For me, the reason why I told Lush that on camera was because I was just so upset about it and so pissed off at him betraying me, that I just wanted to have the conversation publicly. And so now we're looking at this like, okay, well, how would this have played out if I didn't fire Lush on, or not fire, but if I didn't have this conversation with Lush on camera? So yeah, I guess that's probably the closest that I can get to sort of summarizing this in short form.
What I want to know is, who the hell told anybody that I was replacing AD because whoever said that, they knew before I did. For sure. I didn't know shit. I thought I was coming out here to be a sledge lord. I